Hello everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are making a new doll using this operetta's body with this Abby's head and Abby's hands, because I used operetta's hand, one of her hands, for something else. Well, yeah, getting rid of that head, and now we gotta cut that, thingy off, Abby's head, because, I don't even know what that thing is. It's like a hat or something, I don't know. It's kind of a pain though, because it had those little plastic thingies. And now it's time to chop off all her glue sticky hair. It was very gross. Um, yeah, just making her bald, you know? Um, so yeah. And now, and now that she is having a buzz cut, we are going to rip out all of those hair plugs, and yeah, there was a lot in there. Along with other things, you know? Hair plugs and glue. And now we're going to take off her face, now that she's nicely bald. It was kind of a mess, and so yeah. So we gotta take off all her beautiful pink lipstick, which was kind of hard. And now that we have her clean head, we have to wash her face off with soap and hot water and chop her ears off to make way for her new fishy ears, because this is going to be a mermaid. And since she's going to be a mermaid, she's also going to need her legs to be cut off as well. But her legs were very stubborn, so I tried to use scissors to cut them off, but that didn't work. So eventually I just kept twisting and trying to pull it off, and then they eventually just, broke off. So yeah. So then I had to get that little plastic piece out of the middle hole or whatever. And I was trying to I had to carve it out with a lino cutter, but eventually it worked. So yeah, now it's time for her hair. So I'm going to use this black yarn because I'm making a lava mermaid, so it's going to have black hair like obsidian or something. So yeah, I split up all the yarn into the little individual things and flipped it over my reroot tool and plugged it into the head. And now we're going to use some Elmer's glue to glue it in place and, keep it nice and stuck in the head, I guess. I don't know. Um, so yeah, and then we're going to use this 16 gauge wire I got at the craft store to twist it together and make her the bone structure, if you will, for her tail. I left it kind of untwisted at the bottom for her fins, and I wrapped a smaller wire over it, and then I wrapped this piece of white fabric around it just to keep it in place. I actually used Delightful's mermaid tail method, her tutorial method or whatever, from her Cora doll or whatever. So yeah, I followed that very closely. So now that's sewn on, I wrap her, I pad and stuff her tail with a paper towel and some leftover yarn, fur stuffing, whatever. So I pinned that in place, and then I used some thread to wrap it around and create the shape of the tail. This part was kind of tricky, wrapping it in place and stuff, actually keeping it in place. So, yeah. And also, I kind of didn't cut the thread long enough for it to actually go all the way to the top, but it worked out anyways. It doesn't matter. So then I'm going to be using this beautiful shiny black fabric, and it kind of looks like it has scales on it, so that's perfect. So basically, I cut out a piece and pin it in place, and then I kind of fold the edges in and pin those in place, and then sew it together using a whip stitch with black thread so that it'll blend in to the tail, obviously, and not be so obvious to where you can see the the stitches. And then I use more of the black fabric to make fins, but I sewed them on the outside this time because I didn't want like when I turn it inside out, like I didn't want the shape to like change dramatically. So I sewed it from the outside and it actually worked out pretty well. It created like kind of like a flowy like texture. I don't know, like kind of ruffled. So then I pinned and sewed on the fins. Now here I'm using the eye of a needle to poke holes in the head for the wire for the ears. And then I put the wire through and like bent the end of the wire so it won't come back out. And I did that for both sides of the ears. And then I used some old Crayola model magic to, you know, to form the shapes of the ears out of clay. This was kind of tricky because it kept, like, I almost, like, smushed it, and also, like, the Crayola model magic was kind of old, so it was, like, kind of hard to work with, but whatever, it worked. Um, so yeah, now that it's not that the Crayola model magic's dry, I pop on her head, had a little trouble there. And then so here she is, and now we're gonna start with painting. I painted her body with a white base coat first because I'm going to paint her skin yellow because, you know, so she can like look like lava or whatever. I don't know. Fiery lava, I don't know. So I think I did like about like 2 coats of this white paint before I painted the yellow. Just so that because yellow paint it tends to be kind of like transparent, like especially on blue. So I didn't want her to come out green or something. And I think I did about like 3 to 4 coats of yellow paint. And yeah, and I painted her whole body, you know, the back, you know, all her ears and stuff. Yeah. And then I used this like orangey paint to paint like her like the tips her arms, you know, the to have so she could have like a fade to like orange on her limbs, like her arms and then the tips of her ears, just so like I don't know, to make her look more less like a bumblebee and more lava-ish. Because at this point she was looking very bumblebee looking, you know. So yeah. And then I painted her ears, and I tried to do like a gradient, like blend it in better with like the yellow paint. Um, so yeah, and then uh, yeah, and then here I'm blending it, and yeah. I, so then I paint like her like little. She has like little dots on her stomach, and I also painted her tail, like the top of her tail, to be more black, but it didn't really do much. But I painted like kind of like rocky dots, like her body is slowly like solidifying like lava does. And then I used some matte Mod Podge to seal in her body, like the body paint, and yeah, and just like everything except for her like face and ears. So then I started on her face. I painted in the whites of the eyes, but they're not actually white. They're like a yellowish white color. Like they're kind of more yellowy, off-white. And then I painted her eyebrows black. And I painted more of those like little like scale thingies on her face. Just because. And then I did her eyelashes or whatever, and her bottom lashes, you know, all that jazz. And then finally I used my black paint pen to draw on her lips, and I sealed her face and yeah, with matte Mod Podge again. And then I styled her hair, and here's the finished doll. Um, she, yeah, she's like, I don't know. So I used like flat iron for her hair. You know, I brushed it out. Yeah. But anyways, like and subscribe if you want,